And so now we're under assault from the U.S. government, right? The Biden administration, the Democratic Party, really doesn't like crypto. Partly because Sam Bankman-Fried was Joe Biden's biggest donor, and he was the biggest donor of the Democratic Party, and he was engaged in a really intimate way with the SEC and the CFTC. And so the Democrats have egg all over their face and feel, oh, I got to run from this. And, you know, there's a small cabal, Elizabeth Warren, Sherrod Brown, Gary Gensler, that really are trying to, they call it Operation Choke Point, you know, crush crypto. It's a terrible decision for the United States, right? Because what we're seeing overseas, Abu Dhabi is making it a really friendly regime. Hong Kong, believe it or not, is coming up with one of the most friendly crypto regimes that's going to start, where even individuals can start participating. And so we're seeing overseas lots of activity, and domestic a government that's really trying to, you know, smush an industry. Despite all that, prices are going higher, right? Crypto started as the little person's revolution. They didn't trust governments. And there's nothing that's happening in the world today, certainly in the United States and a lot of the West, that makes people want to trust governments more. And so it's almost like when they banned wrestling from the Olympics, I remember I was on TV and I was like, I can't think of anything more stupid than picking a fight with 700,000 wrestlers. You're picking a fight with a crypto community that loves this technology, that believes in it almost with religious fervor, that's resilient as can be. And so I'm bullish as can be, mostly because, not because all the institutions are going to come in, that's been slowed down, but because the people that started this revolution are re-energized.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And guys, we have Mike Novogratz playing the Hegelian dialectic, putting the politics into crypto. And he says that the Biden administration doesn't like crypto because of the bank man. The bank man was funding Democrats, but we also know he was funding Republicans also. Now, we know Elizabeth Warren was working with the bank man's parents. We know the bank man and Gary Gensler MIT connection. But is this Operation Choke Point? No, it is not, guys. We know how the Hegelian dialectic works. You have to have the two sides in order to move to the agenda. We know the big banks, big corporations are the ones who funded crypto from the beginning. Crypto is overseas in the emerging markets because that's where the fourth industrial revolution is going to rise. The NWO knew they couldn't start the fourth industrial revolution in America because Americans wouldn't have it. So what do they have to do first? They have to bring America to its knees. And the central banks want blockchain and crypto, but like Gary Gensler stated, the banking system is a monopoly. So the central banks are going to pick the winners and losers. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you.
This week in the op-ed pages of the Journal, we're not prepared for war with China. I mean, even saying those words is frightening. We think of, is our military depleted, given all of our assistance to Ukraine? What's the situation with Taiwan? What does strategic ambiguity even mean? What about the balloon gate? There's so many things. And the recent, I don't know, when President Xi goes to Russia and embraces Putin, and they start using a different currency in South America in certain countries instead of the dollar. All these things make me wonder whether there really is something we need to be very, very concerned with in our future relations with China, which are so important.
Oh, I'm so glad you put all those pieces together because it all adds up to an increasingly dangerous moment in the world's most important, most decisive relationship. It feels to me there have been inflection points in history: end of World War I, end of World War II, end of the Cold War, and I think Putin's war in Ukraine has set off another one of those things. And President Xi's trip to Moscow last week was important in two respects. First of all, he threw away any pretense of neutrality in the war in Ukraine. The president of Ukraine's invited him to come to Ukraine, but he hasn't even called him after the meeting. But the second one, and you mentioned President von der Leyen's trip to China coming in, and she'll be going with President French President Macron. The second one that she's worried about, and she talked about in a speech this week, is the creation of a new international order that's China-led, safer for autocrats, replacing the order that we, or at least evolving the order that we created with our allies and partners after World War II. And I think that's a big plan. He talked quite openly about that with Putin and said it's the biggest geopolitical shift, and this is President Xi, biggest geopolitical shift in 100 years, and the two of us together can shape it. So he's being, President Xi's being very public about that outcome that he's trying to get.
Against that backdrop,
это как раз час перемены, которые не было в течение 100 лет. Как вместе двигаем эти перемены. Перекиньте, пожалуйста, дорогой друг.
Я уже говорил, уже 2/3 товарооборота между нашими странами осуществляются в рублях и юанях. Мы за использование китайских юаней в расчетах между Российской Федерацией и странами Азии, Африки, Латинской Америки.
why do you think emerging markets will be the place versus the more developed markets in the world? Why is it finally time?
Sure. So emerging markets, the last decade, had their worst performance since 1930. So the relative performance starting point looks very interesting. More importantly, all of this monetary excess, fiscal excess that we're seeing in the developed world, emerging markets have not really had so much fiscal stimulus. Post-COVID, all the QE that was done by the U.S. And some of the other developed markets, the emerging market central banks didn't really have that financial muscle. And even on the private sector side, the leverage hasn't picked up like we have seen. They've spent the last decade actually cleaning up, especially ex-China. And lastly, currencies are really cheap ex-China in that universe, and currencies can contribute anywhere between 25 and 30% of returns for $1 investors. So if you look at all of the performance valuation, both at the equity level, at the currency level, and also the fundamentals related to the fiscal, monetary side, the growth cycle, emerging markets look very, very interesting at this stage of the economic cycle and the market cycle.
It's interesting, Jatana, because I don't.
And guys, before they bring America to its knees, what do they have to do first? That's right, come with the main event. And we know we hear those drums are beating. They're not as loud as they're going to get towards the end of the year, but we definitely hear them beating. China versus the United States was set up a long time ago. Don't forget about my Anthony Sutton videos. He broke it down decades ago and told us exactly how it was going to happen. And we are the chosen generation. And why are we the chosen generation? Because this generation is the one that's farthest away from the Most High. So guys, this is biblical. You're reliving Babylon. You're watching America to Babylon 2.0 fall right in front of your eyes while the sheep are watching March Madness and the rise of China, the dragging along with that digital yuan. And remember, the Cryptoteacher wrote about it and told you about it a long time ago because he knew. When it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance, Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.